As you guys may or may not know, I just created a 2-hour-long video showcasing every trophy from every single COD campaign. And after doing this, I thought to myself, what campaign actually is the best? So I decided to do a tier list. And in this video, I will be ranking every single COD campaign from best to worst. This may be a bit controversial, and yes, of course, there will be spoilers, because how else am I supposed to rank these campaigns? But again, this is just my opinion. Let me know your guys' opinions and rankings in the comments below. Without further ado, let's get into the ultimate COD campaign tier list. Alright, as you can see here, we have an entire tier list full of every single Call of Duty game created. You guys know, I'm a big fan of the campaigns, made that entire video showcasing every single trophy I achieved from every one of those campaigns. So I thought, why not, let's do a tier list. After playing through every single one, do a tier list, see which one stands out, see which ones are my favorite. I already have an idea of where they're gonna go. I say we just start from the bottom here. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019. Honestly, don't think it's bad. Don't think it's bad at all. When it came out, thought it was cool that Modern Warfare was back for the first time since MW3. While I would have liked it to be canon, I understand why they went back, because they essentially killed off every single main person except for Captain Price. Nonetheless, I thought it was made well. I thought it was refreshing compared to some of the previous titles. Like, I think Black Ops 4 was right before it, if I'm not mistaken. Before that was World War II. So they were kind of going back and forth between the old, World War II style boots on the ground to jetpacks. With that being said, I did like the change to boots on the ground. Obviously, Modern Warfare in the current time, I'm going to give it... I don't think it's an A. I don't think it's an A. But I think it's a B, because I thought the story was really good. I liked the gunplay. I liked the mechanics. I thought the story was fun. Thought it was interesting. I liked it. I think we're going to go B there. Infinite Warfare. Okay. This is where it's going to get interesting. This is based purely off the campaign. Again, a lot of people liked the campaign. It was innovative. They were trying to do something different, trying to stand apart from the other games in the series. However, me personally was not the biggest fan, just because it didn't feel like a COD game. The campaign, sure, it was cool. It had side quests, it had dogfights. It literally played like Starfield. Like, it felt like a Star Wars, or even closer to Starfield. I know Starfield wasn't out at the time, but if I played both of those games, I would probably have a hard time differentiating what puts them apart, because they're almost identical. The gunplay was cool. It was alright. The jetpacks in space, it was okay. The story, it made sense. But again, it didn't feel like COD. And I just flat out was not a fan. I was trying to get it over with as fast as possible. So I think because of that, I think it's safe to say we can say F. I think this Call of Duty Infinite Warfare is one of the worst CODs of all time. I know some people like the campaign. I didn't. It didn't feel like COD. COD 4 Modern Warfare, the original here. This is a classic. I mean, this story is really what changed the series, in my opinion. From all the boots in the ground, the World War II stories, then going to a Modern Warfare series in the current time, introducing the real Captain Price. I know Captain Price was in COD 1 and COD 2, but here he kind of stood out into his own series. Obviously met Ghost and Gaz, all those guys, Zakhaev at the end, the highway sequence. Again, it's just classic. This is a classic game. It changed the scope of the entire series, in my opinion. So because of that, it's got to be A, in my opinion. Again, the story was good. The gunplay was good. It was a great game. Call of Duty 3. Okay. This game is a game that I grew up with. Played it a lot. Finally played it recently, as you guys saw, on the hardest difficulty. Don't ever remember it being that difficult. But in comparison to the games that came before it with COD 1 and COD 2, I think it's probably the worst out of the three. In my opinion, I think it was the first Treyarch game of the COD series. They had a bunch of action sequences with these clunky controls that I just was not a fan of. It seemed like they were trying to do something different, but they almost did it too different, to a point where it didn't turn out great. Again, the story, kind of the same as the first two. I did like how you could play as Polish and Canadian and British soldiers compared to the typical British, US, and Russian stories. So I thought that was cool. I thought it was cool to add some different sides of the war to a video game. However, all things considered, campaign, it was really long too. Each mission kind of dragged on. I'm gonna go, I think it's a C. I don't think it's a B. I don't think it's an A. Definitely not an S. It's just kind of right in that middle area. I think I'm gonna remove E because I don't even know what would fit. Okay, yeah, we're gonna remove E. Just have the D and F here. Cod MW3. This is kind of a similar story to Cod 3 in that I think we all can agree that the first two games were much better. They were all similar, but I just think that this one was the worst out of the three. Again, there's only so much you can do after making two full games, and I think they started to run out of ideas in MW3. I mean, they killed Soap, so I think just because they killed Soap, it should be an automatic F. I'm just kidding. But with that being said, again, the story was cool. They finally killed Makarov. Soap is essentially the only person that lived. We're introduced to Yuri. I don't think it's a D. I think it's on the same level as a C. I really do. Because I think I'd rather play Modern Warfare 2019 than MW3 again, if I had to pick one. Just because Modern Warfare 2019 feels a little bit better, the story's a little bit more exciting, and yeah, I think that's safe to say. I mean, MW3 had some cool settings, but it wasn't too crazy. Alright, Black Ops 2. I mean, doesn't even need to be questioned. I don't think I need to say anything. It's an easy S, of course. Black Ops 1 was fantastic. Somehow they managed to up themselves and do it again. That's really tough to do. And the fact that they were able to continue on Woods and Mason and Hudson's story, but also introduce Mason's son into the future, 2025, and continue to thread their way through a modern storyline as well as a past storyline, bringing back Reznov for a scene, Menendez, just a classic antagonist, up there with Makarov. Probably they're on the same level as iconic COD antagonists. Truly a classic game. All the storylines, all the endings that you could have based on the choices you made, story-based. It was a story-based game. I believe that's probably the first and maybe only of the entire COD series, even in the games following after. Maybe minus Cold War. But again, there was so much freedom with this game. You could customize your loadout, all the challenges that needed to be done in each mission if you wanted to get the mission accomplished trophy, I believe. Yeah, this game is a classic. This is strictly based off campaign, so I won't judge the multiplayer because this is probably my favorite multiplayer of all time. But I mean, the story, it's classic. The deaths, the shocks, the ups and downs. You never know what to expect. I thought they did a great job with the story. The game still feels nice today. Played it on the PS3. Sure, you know, has its errors every now and then, but nonetheless, I mean, classic game. It has to be S. Advanced Warfare. I said this in my campaign video, but I feel like Advanced Warfare gets undeserved hate just because it was the first game, or the first couple games after BO2, first game to really introduce exosuits and jetpacks. I personally think it's so much better than Infinite Warfare. I remember playing the multiplayer all the time, but the story itself I thought was really interesting. You go from, you know, a US soldier fighting in Korea to then losing your arm and then losing your place in the military to then joining this privatized militia, Kevin Spacey, the main guy of the Atlas Corporation, Irons, then fighting with him and then having him turn on you to then having to kind of fight in your own little group here, getting defectors from the Atlas corporations to fight with you to take down Irons once and for all. I thought it was a lot of fun, especially the fact that you're able to upgrade your exosuit based on the exo points that you would earn in missions. I thought that was cool. A bunch of cool abilities. Well, it was kind of annoying the game choose what abilities you could have in each and every mission. I still thought the fact that you had them in general was pretty cool. The guns were okay, but the story itself I thought was so much better than a lot of the games that, again, I just feel like it got so much hate, undeserved hate for sure. With that being said, I think I'm gonna go B here. I think I'd rather play the story again compared to COD 3 and MW3. It's probably gonna be a lower B, but I still think it's definitely worth a play if you have not played it before. Cod Ghosts, again, another overhated, underrated game in my opinion. I believe the very first game to come out after BO2, so again, had those high expectations, didn't live up to them, but nonetheless, I still think it's a pretty good game. The story was cool. You have space fighting missions, how you're able to see the satellite get destroyed and then its impact on the Earth down below in the same mission. I thought was cool. You had a dog companion that could fight with you throughout most of the missions. The idea of this ghost kind of section of the military, how all of them were lost except for one who got left behind, and then Rourke had to come back and get payback for all the fellow ghosts that left him behind, I thought was cool. The mechanics themselves, I liked. The guns were okay. I remember the Honey Badger in multiplayer. That's one of my favorite guns in COD history. Again, the multiplayer was cool. The campaign itself, though, it was fun, but in a grand scheme of things compared to the games before it and the games after, kind of in that middle range. Again, I enjoyed it. I don't think it's bad at all. The story was cool. The campaign was cool. So I think it's really in this area, in my opinion. I think we're going to have to move. Yeah, I think we're going to do this right here. Okay, real quick, I think I'm just going to get some of these others out of the way. Call of Duty Mobile. I can't say I've ever played it, but it's also a mobile game, so it doesn't really count. I never played some of these other like COD expansion games off the first COD 1. The Big Red one, I have heard of it, never played it though. Same with United Offensive and Roads to Victory. I don't know if that's the first one, but that just really reminds me of the old Medal of Honor games too. Yeah, never played it. This is a Vita game. I never had a Vita. I had a PSP instead, but I know the Vita has trophies, so who knows? Maybe one day I'll get a Vita and have to go for some trophy hunting on the Vita. And then, of course, Battle Royales, Warzone 2.0. I have not played Warzone since the very first season, and I think that's probably a good thing because, yeah. And I also never got a win, so I'm still kind of salty about that. Okay, now we only have a few left here. World War II. I really like World War II just because I know fans were so fed up with, Infinite Warfare, Advanced Warfare, COD 3, all these exosuits in the future, over-realistic games, so they decided to take a step back, go back to the roots, and go back to World War II. Personally, I enjoyed it. I really, really liked it. A lot of people aren't big fans, but I mean, I guess that's understandable. I personally enjoyed it. The story itself, really in depth, and it really reminded me a lot of COD 1 from the fact that you had to rely on your other teammates to find health for yourself, whereas in the other games you had this regenerating health bar. World War II took that step back to its roots, and you had to find health for yourself, had to rely on your teammates for grenades and ammo and mortar use, and I thought it was cool. The missions themselves that were really immersive. The story was really good, followed this little group of Marines fighting in World War II. I thought it was good. Pretty difficult too on veteran, but again, fun. I did enjoy this. Maybe it's the nostalgia fact from this was the first World War II game since 3, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was 3, because I wouldn't count BO1 as World War II. That's kind of Cold War era. So I think this may be the very first World War II game since Call of Duty 3, if I'm not mistaken. Let me know in the comments, but yeah, I think I'm correct with that. Nonetheless, I did like it. I think the story was good. I'd give it a B. And I'd probably go in the middle. I think it's probably, that's really close. I think these two are really close. This one I like a lot. COD 2. I like COD 2. This is like the very first COD game I ever played, so it does hold a special place in my heart. But then looking in the grand scheme of things, from the games that came before 1 and the games that came after, the campaign probably doesn't hold up as much as some of the others. It's very similar to COD 3, the mechanics, but the story itself was cool. Again, you play as these different soldiers around the world in the World War II era, from the US to the British. That D-Day mission is still iconic in my opinion. Thought it was really, really cool. I liked it a lot. So in terms of the story, not extremely immersive, but it's probably in that C area, probably above COD 3 in terms of the story. Actually, no. I think just based on the fact that you're able to play with more factions around the world, from the Polish to the Canadians to all these other different types of soldiers, and all the stories within the war itself, from people getting captured. I think definitely COD 3 stands a little bit above COD 2 in terms of the story and the campaign, I'd say. But for me, if it was me and I was just completely biased, I'd probably put it at an S, because that was my baby back in the day. All right, Black Ops 4 campaign does not exist. There's no campaign. They decided to go all out on a battle royale, Blackout, which I still have not gotten a win. I'm still trying to go for all those trophies, so stay tuned for that. But there's no campaign. There's this little operator section where you learn all the specialists and what they do and the different game modes in the game, but it's not a campaign, so it does not exist. Black Ops 1, I think I have to go S again. I think it's just the introduction to Woods, Mason, Hudson, going after Dragovich and Kravchenko and Steiner, Reznov, who's also in there. Again, it's classic. Probably not as good of a story and well made as BO2, which makes sense because it came out before, but it's still top tier, and I feel like a gem of the series. I think it's obviously a classic for sure. One of my favorite campaigns. Always like to go back and play it. The Vorkuta mission, still one of my favorites of all time. The Russian roulette mission in Vietnam with Woods and Bowman, who died. I mean, it's classic. From Mason, the numbers, what do they mean to him potentially assassinating JFK at the end? It's a classic game. That is when I think of Call of Duty, I think of BO1. All right, BO3. I personally absolutely hated it. The story made zero sense. This is really tough here, because I feel like in terms of the story and the campaign itself, Infinite Warfare had a better story, and because of that, I'm going to move it up to D. Black Ops 3. I'm a Black Ops 3 hater. I like the multiplayer. I wasn't much of a zombies or campaign player when the game first came out, just simply because it did not make any sense. And if you played on realism, which I did, it was ungodly hard. I have to put it in F, just because of the simple fact that it made no sense. The campaign, it had that little headquarters, which was cool because you were able to select your loadout and different abilities that you wanted before a mission. However, when it comes to the meat and potatoes of the actual game and the story itself, it just seemed like the devs rushed it. The main character didn't even have a name. The person you played as when the subtitles came up, player. Yeah, so not the best game. I think they really wanted to focus on zombies and multiplayer, which were both pretty good. Just the campaign seemed rushed. I really wish it was a little bit more connected to, say, BO1 and BO2. I think Menendez is referenced once, Nova 6 is referenced at the end. But other than that, there isn't really any correlation. It doesn't really feel like a Black Ops game. It was probably the most gory game out of any game on this list here, which is kind of saying a lot. Again, I don't think it's that good. In comparison to all of these games, again, it doesn't really feel like a Call of Duty game. A lot of the characters in the game just kind of feel lifeless as well. Not a fan. I think that's actually, I like this now. All right, MW2, another classic. When I think of MW2, all I think of is Ghost and Roach, Shepard, oh my god, Price, Makarov again. This is such a good game. I'm putting it as an S as well. I don't know. I think I'm going to put it right below BO2. This is like the most niche list. Everyone puts BO2, MW2, COD, Black Ops in their top games in the series, especially when it comes to the campaign and multiplayers. I don't even think it's subjective. I think it's an objective opinion that these are the best in the series and the top-notch games in the COD franchise. Again, MW2 had everything. Crazy fights, Shepard turning on his own men, to then it only being, Soap and Price going after him at the end. The game it's a classic. Again, it's a perfect transition from COD 4 Modern Warfare, the first Modern Warfare game, to the next. And I'm so glad they remastered it too, because going back and playing it again on better graphics, it was so much fun. So again, there isn't much else to say. R.I.P. Ghost, R.I.P. Roach. And even the museum at the end, that's so fire. Yeah, Modern Warfare 2 is up there. It's honestly, it's really close between BO2 and MW2 for me. both classic. COD World at War. I really want to put it in S. I really do, because I love this game to death. But I think it'd be unfair to the others, because in terms of the story, it's relatively basic compared to BO1, MW2, and BO2. However, the story is still fire. I mean, Reznov carried that campaign. Don't get me wrong, I like the US side. I thought it was cool to have a game set in the Pacific. You don't really get that shown in too many of the COD games and World War II games in general, so I think going over there and having the opportunity to play over there was really cool. The story is just so fire, so many twists and turns. It was the darkest, most ominous, brutal COD game in my opinion. Never know what was going to happen next. The Heart of the Reich is such a classic mission. At the end, just planting the flag on top of it, Reznov saving your life with his like machete. It's classic. It's really, it pains me to not be able to put it at S, but I think I just have to. I have to put it at A. I have to. Cold War. Cold War is interesting because, in my opinion, it feels much more like a Black Ops game than BO4, obviously, and BO3. The introduction to Adler and the continuation of Mason and Woods' story in the Black Ops franchise is awesome. I feel like it wasn't as dark as, say, BO2 and BO1 in terms of the different shocks that you would have in the game or the effects that you would have. Just the gameplay in general just didn't seem as like dark in my opinion, and I feel like BO2 and BO1 had that aspect to it, which makes it so classic and so much fun to play through again. I would definitely play through it again, but I don't think I would have as much fun as some of the other games. Again, it seemed a little bit more lighthearted compared to the other games in the series, but that doesn't take away from the fact that it had a pretty interesting story. Very similar to BO1 in that, you know, there's this brainwashed person who thinks he's fighting for one side when in actuality he was just brainwashed. And of course at the end when, you know, Adler takes out Bell, I think that is its one fault, is that you don't really know too much about the person you're playing as. You know that he was brainwashed, you know that his name is Bell, you know that he was in the car that got shot up in that first mission. Other than that, you don't know too much about him. You don't have that connection to him, which I think is I wouldn't say a mistake, but definitely something they could have improved on for the gameplay itself. Again, it was fun. I liked the gameplay. The gunplay was fine. And because of that, I think I would probably rather play it than any of the games here. So, but I do think it's at the bottom of B, maybe a high C as well. It was fun. The campaign was good. Again, multiple different endings. I think that adds a lot to a game. Even some side objectives, some intel that you had to pick up and then kind of decode in order to figure out what's going on in the greater story. I thought that was a lot of fun, a lot of cool things you can do in this game. So I think it's fair to say it's in the B tier. All right, the next one, Call of Duty 1. This one I had never played until last December, and after playing it, it's safe to say that it's really good. So if you've never played it, I would highly check it out. I think you can still get it on the Xbox store. You definitely can still get it on the PS3 store, and I think it's on PC. But this is where all these other games stem from. They stem from the original COD, and playing that remastered version on the PS3 showed me how classic the series is and how good the first game actually was. Again, you were able to play as a Russian, as a British soldier, and then as an American soldier. It was like fascinating. I never would have expected this game to be that good, and it really was. It was so difficult on veteran. You really had, it felt like an old like a 007 game from the way it was played and how maps were structured and whatnot. That old retro shooter, it kind of gave that feel. It was just so much fun. Price was in the game. Makarov and the Russian section was in the game. So there's all these little, I wouldn't call them Easter eggs because this was just the game before MW2 and all those other games. This is what started it. This is what brought all these games here. Because of that, I'm gonna have to give it an A. Again, really good game, and I'd absolutely play it again. Cod Vanguard. This is an interesting one because in comparison to a few of these, I don't think the story and the campaign itself is that bad. I really don't. It is a little goofy, just because it's similar to Cold War in that it's a little bit lighthearted compared to some of the other games. But again, you're playing some missions in the Pacific. You're playing as a Russian soldier at a point. You're playing as an Australian soldier at a point. You're playing as a British soldier at a point. So there's all these different areas of the war that you get to see within this game. The gunplay was actually really nice. I really liked the gunplay. The story was okay, going from character to character and learning all of their origin stories until the final mission where you finally break out of, being interrogated in the German prison was, I guess, okay. I felt it was a little bit dragged out. I would have liked to see the present story gone on a little bit longer than instead of just being in the first and, last mission. So I think because of that, I think it's probably in the same category. I think it's a low C, quite honestly. I think I'd rather play all these other games, campaigns before Vanguard. However, it's, again, not a bad game. All right, these two. We might get some Fs and Ds here. MW2 22 or whenever it came out actually wasn't that bad. Again, I would have loved for the game to be canon, but we're back introduced to Ghost and Price and all these other characters. The Modern Warfare 2019 game, in my opinion, is so much better than it, but that doesn't take away from the story itself. I think it was cool that they added like the cartel into the game and having that aspect of the campaign, as well as the other factions that you had to fight against in the game. Going to the border and seeing the border wall, and then having a battle in Chicago. Those are some of the places that you don't typically see in these, modern COD games. So I think it's cool that they were able to bring new aspects and new environments into the game. However, the game just really does not stand out at all. It's honestly hard for me to remember anything more than what I just mentioned from the game. The Ghost car meme is still kind of classic, a funny moment, but just really not that great. Because of that, I probably would put it in D. I think I'd probably rather play Infinite Warfare. Okay, and lastly, the most recent COD in the series, COD Modern Warfare 3, not good. The story was alright, I guess. They kind of tried to have those shock values. They added back Makarov to have that antagonist in the series, but it just, in general, it's a copy and paste from Modern Warfare 2, but a worse version. Half the game, it felt like I was playing a campaign of Warzone, from the fact that you had like body armor you had to put on to protect you. You also had the open world missions within the game. Again, don't think it's that good. I think it's really bad, quite honestly. I don't think the campaign is as bad as Black Ops 3, so because of that, I think I'm going to have to put it in F, just above BO3. Again, the campaign was okay. The gameplay wasn't that fun. They introduced all these different characters. I mean, Shepard was in it. Reminded me nothing of the original Shepard, which I think is probably the point. Makarov reminded me nothing of Makarov from this one. Soap died again. So they're taking exactly a moment from MW3 and putting it in the new one. Again, it just really was not fun at all. And it was really quick too. All of these older games, so much longer than some of these newer games in this area here. I was able to complete it in like 5 hours. And that's with literally picking up every collectible and every open world mission, as well as getting every miscellaneous trophy as well. Just in general, not that fun. And this is kind of the list of the games, of the trophy order I would pick as well. BO1's trophies, loved them. MW2's remastered trophies, a lot of fun. Black Ops 2's trophies, crazy grind. World at War, again, very difficult. COD 4, very difficult, especially the Mile High Club. Call of Duty 1, very difficult. So all of these are more rewarding, I would say, than a lot of these other ones here. Maybe minus Black Ops 3 just because of the personal decorator trophy. But yeah, I think this is also kind of a testament to the trophies. If the game is good, the trophy list is probably going to be good as well, and probably a bit more challenging, which again makes a more rewarding platinum. So with that being said, this is the tier list. Never played any of these like expansion games. I wouldn't even consider them like real games in the series. Mobile, come on, it's a mobile game. This one played on, I think it's Black Ops Declassified. It's on Vita. Never had a Vita. Again, had a PSP. But again, you never know. Might have to go back one day. These are the Battle Royales. Don't have any campaigns. Does not have a campaign. And then, yeah. So, this was fun. If you guys enjoyed the tier list, maybe once I get a couple more platinums, I'll do a tier list of the games I platinumed. But, yeah, this is it here. Again, really enjoyed it. Enjoyed playing through the campaigns once again. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Took a lot of effort to do, so definitely check it out if you have not watched it. Hopefully this list is similar to yours. maybe it's not. Maybe these takes are bad. I don't really care. Again, I wish I could put COD 2 and World at War at S, but I feel like in comparison they don't. Nonetheless, doing a lot of yapping here. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.